So I'm Jeffrey Hyde. I'm a sophomore and I'm a marketing major.
I'm Zaleski. I'm a sophomore and I'm a neuroscience major.
And I'm Rachel Reese. I'm a freshman and I'm an early childhood education major.
And today our presentation will be on the religion of Islam. So Islam comes from the word salam, meaning peace, and when one Muslim greets another Muslim, they say assalamu alaikum, meaning peace be upon you. In the world there are 1.57 billion Muslims, and that is nearly a quarter of the whole world's population. As you can see on that chart, the most dense population of Muslims is in North Africa, the Middle East, and certain parts of Asia. Even though there are a lot of important places and objects, Rachel will talk about that in a little bit, but God is the only sacred thing or person in the religion, and their God is known as Allah. So with that, they are a monotheistic religion, believing only in one God, which is Allah. They have a very strong belief in angels. Because they believe in angels, there's a really big part at the beginning of their religion. The Prophet Muhammad received the Quran from the angel Gabriel, and that was the beginning part of the religion in 610 AD. So the 5 pillars. The first one, Shahada, which is creed. This is having the belief that there is one God and the strong belief for Him and going off of what He has kind of taught, and also the Prophet Muhammad. The second pillar, Salat, which is prayer. Prayer is a very big thing for Muslims. They pray 5 times a day. When they pray, they face the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and they pray before dawn, midday, mid-afternoon, sunset, and at night. And before every prayer, they have a ritual cleansing of their face, hands, and feet, because those are the only things that are supposed to touch the ground. Third pillar, Zakat, or charity to the poor. Sadly, not everyone is fortunate enough to have a home or 3 meals a day. So for Muslims, that's a big thing of being peaceful and giving back to the community. So as Dr. Lyons said the other day in class, each person probably gives about 2.5% of their income to the poor in their lifetime. And they don't only just give money, they also give time in charity events. The 4th Psalm, which is fasting, on the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, and for this coming up year, it is Tuesday, May 15th through Thursday, June 14th. This is a whole month where they cannot eat during the daytime, sort of daylight, and they also have to stay away from alcohol, tobacco products, and sex. This month is called Ramadan, which is the holiest month of the year for the Islamic community. Later on, Lauren will go more into depth about this celebration. And the 5th pillar, Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca. So as I said earlier, Mecca is the holiest city, and that is the way they pray to. If you happen to be Muslim, you are expected at one point in your lifetime to travel to the holy city, to visit there and go through prayer there. But there are certain circumstances in which you don't have to go, and that is if you're economically not able to, or if you're physically not able to. And in this city, only Muslims are allowed to be there because of the holiness. They don't want outsiders there. So, the afterlife. They believe in final judgment, just like Christianity. There's 2 paths, heaven and hell. Jason Gray, a professor at the University of California, Riverside, related this process directly to Christianity. Muslims will have a judgment day after they pass, and that is to see if they have lived a righteous enough and peaceful life throughout their life by following the 5 pillars and their beliefs and believing in that Allah and the message of Muhammad. If not, are the companions of the fire. They will abide there in eternity. That is a direct quote from the Quran. That is the verse right there. So your actions play a huge role into figuring out where you're going to end up in your afterlife. If you live a righteous life, you're good, you follow the 5 pillars, you'll be rewarded for that and live in paradise for eternity. If not, you're not going to be able to live there. You'll be a companion of the fire.
In the Islamic religion, there are many holidays and festivals that take place throughout the year. Islams follow a specific calendar, and it's a lunar-based calendar which has 354 days in the year. And each month begins 2 days after the new moon. And because of this, the holidays and festivals are pushed backwards each year. This picture is from our textbook, and it is depicting the festivals in Islam. The most inner part of the picture is the English months, January through December. And then we have the names of what the Muslims refer to as those months. And on the outer part of the circle are the specific festivals that are celebrated during that specific time of year. In Islam, there are 2 major holidays. The first one is Ramadan, and Ramadan is the month of fasting, as Jeff said earlier. And with this is part of the 5 pillars of Islam. And during Ramadan, Muslims are expected to abstain from food, drink, alcohol, tobacco use, and sex from approximately dawn till sunset. And with Ramadan, it teaches the Muslims physical discipline. Naturally, their everyday lives, like the pace of their everyday life, has to slow down, and that serves as a time for reflection for them because they're taking what their everyday life would be and drastically changing it, and it forces them to focus on something that's greater than themselves. In our textbook, it states that Ramadan is a period of when social relationships are reaffirmed, reconciliations encouraged, and the solidarity of the community is expressed. So basically with Ramadan, it is an event that forces the community to come closer together and strengthen their relationship with God. Since Ramadan spreads out throughout an entire month, there are multiple events that take place during Ramadan. For example, the Laylat al-Qadr, sorry for my pronunciation, is the night of power, and this is an event that commemorates the descent of the Quran from heaven, which then is the beginning of Muhammad's religion. And then the second event that takes place during Ramadan is the Eid al-Fitr, and that translates to the end of the month of fasting. And in that, this is a time where there's like a festival of fast breaking, obviously means the end of which they do not have to fast anymore. And there is a prayer, the Eid prayer, that is said during this time, and it is said in the mosque specifically that each Muslim belongs to. During this time, it is like really prominent that the Muslims give thanks to God for allowing them to have the self-control to make it through Ramadan, and they also give gifts to each other. They wear new clothing, they eat candy and sweets because they hadn't been able to do that for a month, and they particularly like to visit the graves of their family and just celebrate their ancestors and just give thanks to everything that's happened so far. The second major holiday that is in Islam is the Hajj, and that is also one of the 5 pillars of Islam. This is the great pilgrimage to Mecca, Saudi Arabia. It is expected that each Muslim at least will try to make this pilgrimage at least once in their life, but there are many Muslims who do make this pilgrimage every single year. Like it says, millions of Muslims go each year, but if you have an economic reason, financial reason, or an illness, it is not expected for you to go. Every time they go, you can see the Muslims gathered around the Great Mosque, and they are wearing white cloths. It's very simple clothing. They try to be as uniform as possible. like I said, they congregate at the Great Mosque and they say a prayer around the Kaaba, which Rachel will touch on later in terms of a sacred object. And there are other ritualistic ceremonies that take place during the Hajj. And one of the ritualistic ceremonies is the Day of Arafat, which is where Muslims gather around Mount Arafat and they basically meditate before God from midday to sunset. And then at the end of the Hajj, there's the Eid al-Adha, or the Festival of the Slaughter, which takes place. And this is where ritualistic sacrifices of animals are occurring. And this is to commemorate when Abraham had to face a test of obedience in terms of sacrificing his son Ishmael. And in the Quran, it states that their flesh and blood reach not God, but your devotion reaches him. So mostly with this, the Quran is saying that the sacrificing of the animals is not necessarily like reflecting the physical act, but the symbolic act behind it is your devotion to God and proving to God that you are devoted to him. And then apart from the Hajj and the Ramadan, which are the two major festivals and holidays celebrated in Islam, there are other holidays that are celebrated that have a significant importance to them. For example, Al-Hijra is the Muslim New Year, and then festivals of Ashura, which is celebrating the martyrdom of Muhammad's grandson, Ayman Hussein. And during this festival, there's fasting, blood donations, and special performances, and of course, they always have to have decorations. And then, since Muhammad was one of their basic founder of their religion, they think it is very important to celebrate his birthday. And his birthday is called Mawlid an-Nabi. And then also going along with Muhammad, they celebrate his journey from Mecca to Jerusalem, which is known as the Laylat al-Isra, and in English is the night journey of the Prophet.
Okay. So like Jeff said, technically in the Islam religion there are no sacred objects. Rather, it's several objects that are of high importance. So one of those objects is the Quran, which is their sacred text. The Quran, which also means recitation, is what Muslims believe to be the literal word of God. They believe that Muhammad himself didn't actually write the messages down, nor did he seek them. Rather, the messages came to him through the angel Gabriel. So basically, what the Quran is it's a compilation of 114 total surahs, and surahs are chapters, so 114 chapters, and it's split into two, the Meccan surahs and the Medina surahs. And basically the Quran has all of the Islamic teachings about life. It has different regulations that they must follow. It talks about God the Creator and the final day of judgment. They believe that the Quran is so sacred and important that they actually have certain rules when handling and reading the Quran. One of those rules is they can't have it on the floor at any time. It always has to be almost in an area that's uncluttered and not along with other books on a shelf, and it's supposed to be kind of displayed. And in addition, the Quran has also affected a lot of Islamic art because they believe a lot of the handwritten copies of the Quran, written in Arabic, are also actual pieces of artwork. So another really important object that they consider to be really important is this Black Stone of Mecca, which is in the Kaaba shrine. And basically, I'll touch on that later, it's also called the Great Mosque. So basically, they believe that Abraham himself placed this black stone in the center or in the corner of the Kaaba shrine, which is pictured right here. And they believe that Abraham and Ishmael actually founded it. According to ancient.org, it was one of the websites I was looking at, they actually said some Muslims believe that the stone fell from the sky, which I don't know how true that is, but that's what it stated, that they believe it actually came from the time of Adam and Eve. In addition, a lot of Muslims believe that the black stone at one point was actually white, and that because of all the sin in the world, it has turned to a black color. There's actually no devotional significance to the stone. Rather, they believe that because Muhammad kissed the stone at one point, they see it as kind of, they kissed the stone out of respect for Muhammad and show that they trust in him and his believes. Okay, so speaking of the Black Stone, it's located in the most holy place in all of Islam, and that's called the Great Mosque, where the Kaaba shrine is located. And this mosque is located in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And according to Islamic tradition, they believe that the Prophet Abraham and his son Ishmael built this great mosque, and that after Abraham's death, idolatry became really prominent in Saudi Arabia, and a lot of idols were actually placed within the Kaaba shrine. And in 630 AD, they actually say that the Prophet Muhammad began to preach the true meaning of the Islam religion, and he was able to get rid of these idols within the mosque and kind of reinstate all the rites of the Hajj and all the things that take place in this mosque. It's one of the largest mosques in the world, and it can hold up to 2 million people. The second most holy place in the Islam religion is the Prophet's Mosque, which is located in Medina, Saudi Arabia. And they believe that the Prophet Muhammad actually built this mosque next to his home that he once settled to after his hijrah. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But they say that because of Muhammad's prominence in this area, Medina is often referred to as the capital of the Islam religion because of its importance. In addition, this mosque is actually where the Prophet Muhammad is buried. His tomb is actually in this mosque. One thing that I found interesting about this mosque is when I was researching, they said that Muslims believe that one prayer in this mosque is equivalent to 1,000 prayers. Okay. And then the final special place that I found, and it's considered the third holiest site in Islam, is the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is located in Jerusalem, Israel. They believe that this mosque was the initial direction that Muslims prayed towards before the Great Mosque was built. And this actually, the dome of the rock, which is pictured above, is actually in this mosque. And they believe that site itself is where Muhammad ascended to heaven. So yeah, that's it.
Questions? Well, I have a question for each of you. I'm going to start over here and look over that way so you get a chance to think about it. When you were talking about the some of the beginning part of Islam, what was the most impressive aspect for you?
Probably that, from my understanding from other religions, usually the God, the leader might have the biggest role, but to me it seemed like it was Muhammad, which is one of his followers, or the prophet,
Right.
and having it come from the angel Gabriel when it came down, and it wasn't like he was looking for it, it just came to him. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay. All right. In your explanation of the holidays and festivals, which one did you find, I'm going to go number 2 here, which one did you like the most or find the most interesting?
Personally, I found Ramadan to be the most interesting. I felt that in order to be able to partake in something like that, that does take a lot of dedication, a lot of physical discipline, and the fact that they're doing this all for their God, and it's not necessarily for themselves, and they allow themselves to fully engage in something like that, it really shows how important and how devoted they are to their God. So I found that very interesting because I think that it'd be very difficult to do.
Okay. And for you, the sacred places, which one did you like the most?
I liked the Great Mosque, mainly because I thought it was really cool that when I was reading about it, it said that no matter where Muslims are in the world, that's where, the area or the direction they pray towards. And I also found it interesting about the Black Stone and how they believe that Muhammad once kissed it and that it's located within that mosque.
Okay, give them some love. Constructive comments, please.